The cosmos is memoryless. It simply waits patiently before poetically striking. This isn't your typical karma served cold tale. Listen. No, this is karma on steroids, arriving on your door, carrying the bills with it, wearing high heels, and asking, "Do you remember me?" You are going to see a form of cosmic retaliation that devastates individuals spiritually in addition to humiliating them. This is the harsh reality that most people prefer to overlook, the type of reversal that causes even the audience to remark, "No, they must have gotten the wrong person." Psychological study indicates that those who deliberately undermine others think they are untouchable until their own reality is destroyed by the havoc they cause. And when that occurs, not only is their reputation damaged, but their sense of control is also destroyed. You see, the world doesn't simply seek retribution when individuals use lies as weapons to damage someone's soul, disturb the calm of someone they've singled out, or make fun of things they can't shatter. It also teaches a lesson, and they lost all they believed they would never lose as a result of that lesson. So fasten your seatbelts, because what you're about to hear isn't merely ironic. It's a soul-saving operation. This was no accident karma. It was poetic justice wrapped in a miraculous reaction. Warning, they are no longer laughing. Let's get started. They made fun of the suffering you concealed first. They are now suffering because of what they made fun of in public. Like a comedy performance, they made fun of your suffering. What almost destroyed you was laughed at. They turned your suffering into a collective sport, made fun of your emotions, and saw your difficulties as character defects. They didn't stop to inquire as to why you were dull, why you abruptly withdrew, or why you were mute. They believed that because of your vulnerability, you were lesser, less valuable, or deserving of their derision. They were unaware, however, that your stillness did not imply weakness. It was a hallowed place. You were in grief. You were putting everything back together. They couldn't even last a week, much less survive what you were going through. Life has now done something awful. They have tasted the suffering for which they made fun of you. This time, however, there are no laughing pals, no cheering mob, and no onlookers applauding their derision. Whether it was betrayal, disease, desertion, loss, mental agony, or heartache, the emotional hell you previously experienced has now surfaced in their life, and it is no longer amusing. All of a sudden, their worlds are falling apart. They are shedding their masks. In real time, people are witnessing their disintegration. Their energy is ghostly, their confidence is broken, and their grins are forced. Because karma didn't just change everything. In front of everyone, it struck with great force. They now comprehend your experience, but it's too late. No amount of apologies can take your name out of their everyday discourse. No, saying, "I was just kidding," won't make them stop enjoying your suffering. Your depth was what they perceived as your weakness, and their perceived strength was nothing more than borrowed arrogance. They used to make fun of you for crying, and now they're crying too. They once made fun of you for carrying the same burden, and now they're waking up to it. Your story no longer seems so pathetic all of a sudden. This appears to be a prophecy. People are observing. The frightening thing about karma is that the same onlookers who used to laugh with them are now muttering, "Damn, they're getting exactly what they deserve." Where it hurts, it doesn't hit. Wherever you believe you are safe, it strikes. And it wasn't a gentle lesson this time. It resulted in total humiliation. They didn't just learn a lesson. They're living inside a lesson. Second, their curse came back so fast that they thought you did something to them. They were so sure you were going to fall that when things started going wrong, their first instinct wasn't to question themselves. It was to blame you. After what they did to you, they were unable to comprehend how their lives could collapse so rapidly. They ran out of money. Their relationships broke down. Nothing was going right, and the pieces were gone. They seemed to be being followed everywhere by a gloomy cloud. The most absurd aspect is that they believed you were responsible. They started to whisper to one another that perhaps you had done something spiritual to them, which made them paranoid. Perhaps you are more powerful than they realized, or perhaps you sent something back to them. The intriguing thing is that they caused their own devastation. You didn't do anything. You didn't ask for retribution. You didn't say prayers or light candles. While they drowned in evil, all you did was live a pure life. They made their own curse because their goals were so nefarious, so narrowly focused, and so driven by ego and jealousy. They released so much poisonous energy into the world that it was unable to locate you. Thus, it was sent back to the sender. And it didn't knock on the door courteously when it did. Like a spiritual fire, it ripped their lives apart. They had never anticipated this. They believed that karma was optional, slow, or far away. However, their actions quickly backfired because they frightened someone who was protected. It rocked them to their very being. In an instant, their luck was completely turned upside down. They genuinely thought you were to blame for this. However, the outcomes were quite loud. They had forgotten that lying doesn't make bad intentions go away. Cover-up stories don't matter to energy. It reacts to the fundamental reality. The irony hurts. They are pleading for clarification, answers, and peace after believing they were in charge. They once attempted to rob you. When they were plotting, they didn't think that spiritual laws existed, but now they're looking up prayers for protection online. Sages being burned. They have no understanding at all. It is obvious that something is wrong, which is why they are afraid. They know in their hearts that it began when they came to get you. It's because you're innocent, not because you're a warrior or a witch. Furthermore, karma doesn't merely react when innocence is violated, it blows up. Third, they took on the role of puppet master. They are now entangled in their own web. They believed they were geniuses, manipulating people like chess pieces by pulling all the strings behind the scenes. They spread lies behind your back while grinning in your face. They gathered allies, twisted stories, and acted like puppet masters, believing they were too smart, too connected, too charming to ever be caught. They didn't just want you to fall. They wanted to control how you would fall, who your enemies would be, when it would happen, and how far it would go. Every move was calculated, as if they were writing the script for your downfall. But they forgot one thing. When you set a trap for someone else, you start living in a trap yourself. The net they set to catch you is now suffocating them. The lies they told are coming back. The people they manipulated are waking up, comparing their stories, recognizing the patterns. The pawns are falling off the board one by one and realizing they've been used. And now, the so-called puppet master is panicking because the story is unraveling. And this time, they can't control it. This time, people are asking questions they can't answer. The lies are piling up, and the net is closing in on them. There's no worse feeling than realizing you're trapped in the game you created. That's where they are right now. They wanted to make you look unstable, disloyal, or dangerous. But all they did was expose how insecure, controlling, and manipulative they really are. Their need for power and attention has become their greatest weakness. They can no longer keep up the act. Or they've become paranoid, constantly looking over their shoulders, afraid that someone will expose the truth. And this fear is the same fear they tried to instill in you. They weren't smarter than life. They only managed to temporarily keep things in order. But karma doesn't care about timing. What matters is harmony. And they lost harmony the moment they used deception as a tool. Now they're trapped in a reality they built with their own hands, surrounded by fake alliances and people who secretly don't trust them. This is the completion of a cycle they never expected. The web they spun wasn't meant to catch you. It was always meant to be their own spiritual trap. And now there is no escape. They are caught in the net. Fourth, they prayed for your downfall. God accepted their prayers for themselves. They prayed so insistently for your downfall that it became a ritual. Every conversation, every thought, every interaction was filled with pain. They weren't just angry at you. They were consumed, obsessed. They began to wish for your failure as people wish for the sun to rise. And the scary part is that they truly believed these prayers were justified. They convinced themselves that your progress was a threat, that your peace was undeserved, and that your blessings belonged to them. So they didn't just hope for your downfall. They prayed for it repeatedly, mercilessly. But the universe does not respond to names. It responds to energy. It responds to intention. You cannot cover a rotten heart with religious words and expect divine grace. They weren't praying for healing. They were praying with hatred. And that's why they weren't in harmony with your downfall. They were in harmony with their own destruction. Unknowingly, when they spoke negativity about your life, they were sowing seeds in their own soil. Every time you whispered, "I hope they lose everything," the universe said, "It is done." You only asked for that energy. Now everything they wished for you is manifesting in their world. Chaos, setbacks, isolation, delays, losses. But this is not a punishment. It is a reflection. Their prayers did not affect God. It was their energy that influenced the outcome. Because when you pray against someone who has never done you any harm, who has kept their heart pure and their hands clean, the only thing you set in motion is a mirror, a spiritual boomerang. And when it returns, it doesn't knock on the door. It enters as if invited. They look around and blame bad luck, jealous friends, spiritual warfare, everything but themselves. But they know in their hearts. They are aware that their wish for you was sinister. They are aware that their prayers were not sincere. They were curses veiled in terms of religion. They have now turned into guests of the darkness they unleashed. There was no need for you to defend yourself. You didn't have to strike back. Their own energy dug the pit, and their own language set the trap. And now their own lives are being crushed under the weight of what they hoped would destroy you. This is not karma's cruelty. This is karma's justice. Fifth, they believed they would be elevated if they destroyed you. They crippled their own paths instead. They believed they would rise to a higher level by crushing you. They thought they would get more light, more space, and more opportunities if they got rid of you through deceit, manipulation, or purposeful exclusion. They believed that your success, not their own fears, was the barrier. For this reason, they staged your demise as though it were a strategy meeting. Secret meetings, dubious alliances, and covert sabotage. This went beyond simple treachery. It was a calculated action to make room for them. They didn't anticipate, however, that getting rid of you wouldn't lead to opportunities for them. Every door they attempted to enter would be locked. Rather than getting up, they became tired. Now, everything they attempt to construct is short-lived. It's disintegrating. Consumers are drifting away. Partnerships are breaking down. There is a shortage of money. Possibilities are disappearing. It's not bad luck either. It has a spiritual repercussion, because a team of destruction cannot be used to build peace. The foundation of their dreams was filthy. They cursed their aspirations. What they believed to be a wise decision is now keeping them up at night. The guilt is too much to bear. Karma is making its voice heard. They have halted their progress, not because people don't support them, but rather because when they acted, their hearts weren't pure. They had more in mind than simply rising. They wanted to destroy you in order to rise. This type of ambition is distinct, an ambitious goal that comes at a high cost. At first, it might have worked. They may have experienced power, fame, and success, but now everything is falling apart. They can sense it inside. The lights have gone out. The applause has ceased. There's a problem. They're rusting everything they touch. Nothing is clinging. There is no flow. In actuality, you curse your own path when you attempt to ruin someone who is following their own path. This law is spiritual. Their lives demonstrate the validity of such laws, even though they may not believe in them. The emptiness that would ensue caught them off guard. And because they never made it to their destination, they are now damned by their deeds and are trapped in a place of agony. This sabotage did not elevate them, it exposed them. And what they buried to prevent your growth has now become what prevents their own growth. Sixth, they turned people against you. Now people are ashamed of believing in them. They didn't just lie about you. They ran a campaign against you. They made you the villain in stories you weren't even in. Behind closed doors, they dragged your name through the mud, twisted the truth, exaggerated events, and blamed their own crimes on you. They engaged in group chats, whisper networks, subtle insinuations, and outright smear campaigns. And for a while, it worked. People started to look at you differently. They stopped searching. They distanced themselves from you. You felt the change. You saw the sideways glances. Even before you entered the room, you could hear the echoes of gossip. And all you could do was remain silent while others who were unaware of your true identity dragged your name through the mud. However, time works without hurry. People started to notice the discrepancies gradually, piece by piece. The patterns were visible to them. They noticed that people who used to actively seek you out are now classified as toxic. In some way, those who claimed you were the issue were also making things worse for everyone else. The lies started to come out of themselves. There was no need for you to defend yourself. You didn't have to present the proof. The truth was loud enough to be heard. The same individuals who previously supported your adversaries are now starting to feel guilty. They feel embarrassed. They understand that they were merely instruments in a vicious scheme. Some people didn't intend to harm you. They simply trusted the wrong people. Now that the masks are off, though, they perceive you in a different light. Softer. Apologies. They understand that you weren't the issue. They helped paint the bullseye on your back, and you were the target. The fact that they never inquired about your side of the story is the most upsetting thing. All they did was assume. You don't even need to explain now that everything has calmed down. Your tranquility speaks. Your constancy is evident. Your development speaks for itself. And now those who doubted you are silently watching, remorseful and ashamed, hoping you'll never realize how much their words hurt you. In actuality, it was you that they disregarded, questioned, and laughed at. They are drowning in every lie they helped propagate now that the truth is indisputable, because they now understand that they placed the wrong wager. Seventh, they rejoiced when you were ill, homeless, or grieving. Their stability is now eroding. They did more than simply observe your suffering. They rejoiced. They took pleasure in your suffering when you were at your lowest. They joked. They related tales. They gossiped about your predicament. Others feigned concern in public, but they laughed behind closed doors. They referred to it as karma. You got what you deserved, they said. However, they never publicly expressed their envy of your strength. You were present even when your heart was broken, you were homeless, or you were ill. There was still light in you, and that light disturbed the demons inside them. When you were small, they felt bigger. When you were broken, they felt safer. They enjoyed knowing that while they lived comfortably, you were struggling to survive. Your pain gave them a false sense of power, and the louder their lives seemed from the outside, the more they mocked what you were going through. They thought they had won, that you were finally finished, that God had abandoned you. But they didn't know that your pain wasn't a punishment. It was preparation, a reset. And while they laughed, heaven was rewriting your story. Now the change has begun. Slowly, the ground beneath them is becoming unstable. The easy money is starting to disappear. The relationships they once felt so sure of are now strained. Their energy is off. They have no peace. And they are afraid because they cannot understand why everything is falling apart. But you understand. You recognize this pattern. You know this is not random. This is the correction of energy, justice, and divine oversight. While you were being tested, they laughed. Now that they are exposed, they are crying. Fear now fills the eyes that once witnessed your struggle. Where they once sowed chaos, they are now pleading for peace. In the silence they once derided, they are looking for healing. Furthermore, the universe is not unkind. It's fair. They have been held accountable for their actions. For peace, not retaliation. There was no need for you to curse them. There was no need for you to conspire against them. The score has been settled by life. And since it was never blessed, everything they erected on your demise is now collapsing. It was fueled by conceit, and that pride has now been reduced to ashes. Eighth, they attempted to manipulate your life by playing God. They are now in a state of divine silence. They did more than just injure you. They attempted to reinterpret you. They wanted to use their own pen to rewrite your story. They believed that they could completely change your course if they influenced how other people perceived you, prevented you from taking advantage of opportunities, manipulated your relationships, and disseminated a false impression of you. In order to decide what you deserved, who should love you, and how far you could go, they sought to replace divine authority in your life. This was more than just rude. It was a transgression of spirituality. They attempted to handle life on their own because they didn't trust it to do its job. In rooms that were unrelated to you, they whispered. What was intended for you was obstructed by them. They attempted to postpone what was supposed to occur in God's time. And they proudly carried out all of this, acting as though they were your future protectors. However, attempting to fulfill the role of God can be dangerous because it leaves you alone in an unfillable silence. And they are currently there. A thick spiritual quiet. A total sense of alienation, not just unanswered prayers. Despite their prayers, nothing occurs. The doors are still closed, even though they want to. Despite their best efforts, nothing sticks. This has nothing to do with their curse. It's because they went too far. They lost their own harmony when they attempted to alter someone else's calling. Manipulators do not have the same authority as divine power. The veil is lifted from them. It is no coincidence that they experience a sense of dryness in their souls. When you attempt to sit on a throne that is not yours, this is what occurs. They are currently exiled spiritually. Things that once flowed easily are now filled with friction. They try to hear God, but all they hear is silence. And this silence is not a test. It is an answer, a message, a result. They touched the sacred. They tried to stop heaven. And now they stand outside the door they once tried to protect. The lesson is painful but true. When you try to be God in someone else's life, you lose your place in their peace. And this is a loss that no amount of control can compensate for. Ninth, they hurt you with dark energy. They are being consumed alive by that energy now. They went too far and couldn't go back. Their anger wasn't limited to you. They had an obsession. They were so fixated that they looked for ways to spiritually ruin you. They resorted to darkness when lies failed and seclusion proved insufficient. They went after those who professed to be powerful. They funded rituals, fortune-telling, and spells to obstruct your way, deceive your thoughts, or injure your body. Some did it on their own by calling forth powers they didn't fully comprehend, lighting candles, reciting names, and writing petitions against their own lives. Since you wouldn't know, everything was done in secret. However, spiritual energy is inherently self-revealing and does not wait for authorization. It was supposed to teach you a lesson, cleanse you, and remove you. And it might have appeared to work for a while. You might have felt burdened. You might have suffered odd losses. You might not have been able to explain anxiety, strange dreams, attacks, or abrupt changes. They were unaware, however, that your defense went beyond incense and candles. Even before they considered you, you were already protected. The energy they sent couldn't adhere to you because of this. It pivoted. It looked around. Then it returned with curiosity. They are unable to sleep now. They can now see shadows. They now experience inexplicable crises, hear whispers, and jump without cause. At night, the spirits they called upon to exact revenge remain by their side, unwilling to go. This goes beyond simple paranoia. An invasion has occurred. A spiritual encroachment. They have lost their tranquility. Their houses have an odd vibe. Nothing, not even sage or crystals, can purify the hatred that has taken root in their disorganized minds. The rules were unclear to them. There are actual spiritual laws. If you don't eat from the same plate, you can't cause destruction. They are requesting payment for the energy they used. And now it is using mental torture, sickness, and fear to get money. They are opening doors that they are unable to shut. And they now feel weak because of what used to make them feel strong. It was not you who did this. These are the results of the choices they made. Despite the warnings from their consciences, intuitions, and signs, they disregarded them all and pursued a fictitious sense of triumph. And now, every night, the darkness that was used to bury you sits on your chest and won't go away. 10. They viewed your compliance as a sign of weakness. They are afraid of your genius now. Your silence was interpreted by them as weakness. Your modesty made them feel afraid. They assumed you were helpless because of your avoidance of drama, your silence in the face of mayhem, and your refusal to stand up for yourself when lies were being told about you. They thought you were finished, cowardly, and soft. They never realized, however, that your silence did not equate to surrender. It was a plan. Because you were evolving, rather than because you were losing energy, you were conserving it. You were rebuilding your life while they were busy destroying your reputation. You healed the wounds they believed would never heal, quietly, steadily, and day by day. They believed you would be in excruciating pain, but you overcame it. In the locations where they prayed to destroy you, you found joy. You're shining now, radiating light from somewhere they can't get to. There is more to this brightness than just beauty. It's a triumph of the spirit. It is evidence that you are not who they believed you to be. You're deeper, wiser, more carefree, and stronger. They also detest it. Your tranquility disturbs their souls when they see you online. They know what they attempted to do, so when they hear your name in conversation, it hurts them. Although you don't judge them, you remind them of their own shortcomings, so when they walk by you, they feel as though your energy is criticizing them. You demonstrate the futility of their hatred. You are living evidence that the divine light within you cannot be extinguished. They are afraid of your genius. It's inexplicable, not just because it's visible. You didn't defend yourself. They weren't slandered by you in return. You didn't become like them. You're winning, though. More than anything else, this irritates them. Because you should have fallen in their minds. You ought to have broken. You ought to have vanished. However, you didn't. You got up. And this rise is making them doubt everything they believed about you, including your strength and control. Their own tranquility is now broken each time they witness your tranquility. They are reminded of the storm they were unable to drown you in every time they see your smile. The worst punishment is not seeing it coming, but knowing that the person they labeled weak has become untouchable. Number 11. The universe took a piece of their sanity, but they took a piece of your soul. They did more than simply harm you. They stole a part of your soul, something sacred. Not in the lyrical, dramatic sense that people sporadically use, but rather in the painful, real sense. They were cruel to you and stole your trust, your innocence, and your vulnerability. They took advantage of your allegiance. They secretly made fun of you while profiting from your generosity. And after obtaining what they desired, they abandoned you, leaving you in a state of emotional ruin, confusion, and silence. However, the cosmos was observing, and what they believed to be a clean escape turned out to be the start of their demise. Because you cannot simply abandon someone who has betrayed a pure soul. You are separated from harmony, grace, and peace. This disconnect is initially felt very subtly. The flow is lost. The timing is incorrect. It becomes hard to find happiness. However, these emotions quickly intensify. Sleep starts to feel weird. Thoughts grow ponderous. Their mood deteriorates. They are unable to explain it. However, everything seems more difficult than it was. When you hurt someone who was put in your life by God, this is what occurs. For growth, not for profit. You weren't simply lost. When they had you, they lost themselves. That more complete, stable, and guiding version of themselves. Their lives now resemble a haunted maze. Nothing is steady. They never seem to find what they're looking for. Even the things they used to like seem flimsy now. They are dispersed in their energy. They have erratic emotions. Despite being surrounded by people, they feel isolated. When you take something from someone you are meant to protect, this is what occurs. The equilibrium has been upset. The soul maintains score. Nor is this retaliation. It's a reflection. Despite your imperfections, you had a genuine heart, and they did not regret breaking that. What they attempted to dull in you has now resurfaced in them. And getting out won't be simple, because they took more than time or love. It was not heavy, and your world becomes dark when you steal the light. They lost more than just a decent individual. The energy that could have raised them was taken away from them. All that remains now is the mental cacophony, the emotional burden, and the knowledge that something valuable has been lost and will never be found again. 12. They believed the truth would be buried by time. But time turned into a microphone for the truth. Time would undo the harm, they were sure. They thought that people would forget what they had done to them if they kept quiet, smiled, and hung around with the right people. They believed that their punishment would be silence. They thought they would be protected by the image they had constructed, and that lies would eventually turn into historical truth. Time served as a hiding place and a shield for them. However, they failed to remember that time is not an unbiased factor. Lies are not protected by time. It breaks them. Cracks started to show up as the days went by. It was because their energy could no longer support their own deceit, not because you said anything. The mask started to come off. The narrative started to take shape. People began to inquire, make connections, and recall incidents that had previously appeared to be innocuous. And the lies they had told started to lose their impact one by one. Even strangers began to notice something strange about them. They were a practiced presence. They had different stories. Their energies did not align. Time was doing its usual thing. It was exposing the truth by removing the layers rather than demolishing everything. This realization wasn't particularly loud at first. It began quietly. People started to retreat. The tension, the sidelong glances, the change in tone of voice when their names were spoken, and the smoke rising before the fire all gradually increased. However, it is now indisputable. Truth has been given a microphone by time. Additionally, that microphone is reverberating in spaces they never thought it would be heard in. Reputations are evolving. There is a decline in trust. Additionally, the reputation they have worked so hard to uphold is becoming a source of uncertainty. Their own performance is drowning them. The truth cannot be kept secret indefinitely, not because you revealed them. Regardless of their wealth, beauty, or social standing, it makes no difference. People notice when the energy is gone. Furthermore, that sentiment spreads more quickly than any rumor. They misjudge the depth of the spiritual truth. It can speak without a platform. All it takes is time. They feel as though everything is slipping away from them as they attempt to control the narrative while walking around under that burden. Despite their best efforts to remain calm, they feel as though everything is breaking. There are now loud, indisputable voices that are catching up to them in the silence that used to comfort them. They did not have time on their side. It supported the truth, and the truth is triumphant. 13. God wanted you to wear the crown, but they wanted you to go. They made every effort to obliterate you. They made an effort to remove you from your own narrative. They were purposeful rumors. The group conversations were calculated. The crocodile tears, the phony worries, the phony pity. It was all planned to push you away, to erase you, to make people doubt your integrity, your value, and your sanity. This went beyond simple discontent. In the name of concern, a full-scale erasure campaign was launched. They desired your forgetfulness, replacement, and insignificance. However, they were unaware that you were never the person they initially selected. You were selected, not appointed. Popularity wasn't the source of your light. Their approval was not necessary for you to exist. Their votes could not decide your calling. That's why their strategies didn't work. That's why you didn't just survive. You started to rise, regardless of how many people they tried to incite against you or how many stories they tried to spread. Because it wasn't just a person they wished to bury. It served a divine function. Furthermore, a purpose cannot be abandoned. Envy, jealousy, and even spiritual conflict. The tide is now shifting. The formerly raucous and breathtaking lives are starting to wane. Now, the attention they used to receive seems meaningless. Doubt-filled murmurs are taking the place of the praise they so desperately wanted. In the meantime, you are entering a light that is so pure that it seems uncreated by humans. Since this was not created by humans, harmony is this. This is the divine reversal where heaven declares, I have seen everything, and now the time has come. Plotters are currently in disarray. You are now being silenced by those who attempted to silence you. The rooms they believed to be theirs are being taken away from those who wanted you to leave. This is not being done by you. This isn't retaliation. Real-time spiritual justice is being served. In places they vowed you would never go, you are wearing crowns. Those who previously did not value you are now supporting you. Your name is being given back to you voluntarily, not under duress. Furthermore, this generosity is more resilient than any deception, more persistent than any treachery, and more potent than any assault they have ever made. God wanted you to be seen, heard, and exalted, but they wanted you to go. No one can undo what heaven has authorized when God decides to crown you. 14. They made fun of the wrong individual. They are now pleading with a silent God for assistance. To them, you were just another name to make fun of and another soul to discard. They didn't realize they were making fun of the wrong person when they laughed at your suffering. You weren't weak. Everything they did to you was documented in a world they could never understand, and you were being watched, guarded, and taken care of. This went beyond simple cruelty. It was a test of faith, a moment meant to reveal them, not to destroy you. And they utterly failed this test. They considered their brutality to be ingenious. The jokes, the laughter, the rolling of their eyes when your name was called, the cruel behavior behind your back, and the smiles in your face. They believed you to be a subordinate, easily broken, easily ridiculed, and disposable. However, they were fundamentally unaware of who you were. They had no idea what you were carrying. You were more than just a person going through life. You were put there as a divine measure to reveal their hearts. And now, their own behavior has made them incarcerated. All of a sudden, their lives seem to be stuck. Once easy-to-open doors are now locked. Those who used to help them have moved on. They have heavy minds. They receive no response to their prayers. Despite their tears, nothing happens. They look for a way out, but the sky is quiet. This is a correction, not cruelty. Because the same God they invoked witnessed them making fun of someone he had anointed. It's not a spiritual conflict. It is a result, a pause from God, or spiritual seclusion. Because they didn't just wrong one person. A test they took was unsuccessful. It would have been a test that would have elevated them if they had passed with kindness and humility. Instead, they let their pride do the talking. They let their pride rule their actions. They now live in silence, which is more powerful than any form of discipline. They sense it in their hearts, but they keep it to themselves. The fact that nothing pleases them, regardless of how loud the applause is, the loss of obedience, and the emptiness they feel in their wins. The most unsettling aspect is that they are aware of its origin. They recall the time they opted for ridicule rather than pity. Unaware that they were laughing at their own demise, they recall how enjoyable it was to laugh at you. The idiots weren't you. It was you who revealed the truth. And now they are unable to break the silence that has replaced their laughter. Because distance is God's solution to dishonor. And nothing is more burdensome than the absence of God. Their reality is now screaming because of the things they did behind their backs. Everything has come full circle, including the lies they told, the jokes they made about you, and the spiritual transgressions they committed due to their ego and obsessions. Not because you exposed them or sought retribution, but because divine justice and the laws of the universe do not overlook anything. They believed that they could not be touched. They believed they could control your destiny, change your story, and manipulate energy. They were unaware, however, that you were never in their power. You were appointed, not selected. You didn't need to prove yourself because you were protected. You weren't just any person, you were anointed. Furthermore, there are no repercussions when someone disobeys a divine mission. They enter immediately. Their own spiritual trap was created by what they believed to be a cunning plan. They became their own reflection of what they hoped would destroy you. And now they are drowning in the darkness while your light still shines with grace. This is what they did to themselves. They didn't only play with one individual. They handled the test poorly. And now they are unable to look at that test as a mirror. Allow them to relax in the quiet they produced. Allow them to grapple with the shame of making fun of you. Continue to shine, to rise, to heal. Because you did not receive the crown that they attempted to take away from you. It was put on your head by hands they can never touch, forged in agony, and shielded with intention. This isn't a tale of salvation. This is divine justice in real time. And your rise has cursed those who once laughed at your fall. Have peace with this. Don't ignore this message if it stirs up something inside of you. Tell everyone about it. Click the like button to demonstrate that you are following the truth. Please comment below if you have witnessed divine justice in action. Show this video to someone who needs a reminder that we are always accountable to God. To ensure that you don't miss another moment like this, it is crucial that you subscribe to the channel and enable notifications. This is a confirmation, not just content. And you were supposed to get this if it got to you. Don't lose your footing. Allow your light to shine. Keep getting picked. There is still more to your story. It's only the beginning.